My parents loved only my golden brother, so they handed important documents to my work competitors. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam, 35 years old, and right now, I'm dealing with a situation in my family that's left me completely shaken. On the outside, my life looks perfect. I have a successful career in finance, a stable home, and my wife, Ava, who's been my anchor through everything. But within my family, things are far from perfect. I've always been the hard worker. Since college, I've supported myself, climbed the ladder in my field, and built a reputation as someone reliable and driven. My older brother Lucas, 41, has had a very different path. He's never been able to settle into a career. He's tried everything, retail sales, a failed business venture, but nothing ever worked out. Our parents, Kevin and Sarah, have always been there for him, providing emotional and financial support at every turn. For me, it's been the opposite. I've never asked for anything, never needed financial help, but I've also never received much acknowledgement. It feels like my success is something they deliberately overlook, while Lucas' failures are excused as reasons to pour more love and attention into him. I tried to shrug it off for years, but a recent family dinner pushed things too far. It was supposed to be a simple night. Mom cooked her famous lasagna, and we were all sitting around the table catching up. Lucas has always been a bit smug, but this time he decided to take a shot at me, out of nowhere. You know, Adam, he smirked. Finance guys like you are the reason the world's such a mess. Heartless financiers squeezing the life out of the little guys. I felt the words hit me like a slap. I looked around the table, waiting for someone to step in, but then I saw it. Mom and Dad were laughing. They weren't just amused. They looked like they agreed with him. Ava caught my eye and gave me a warning look. I know she meant well, but at that moment, I couldn't keep quiet. I forced a smile and replied, "Well, Lucas, if it weren't for people like me, you wouldn't have had the chance to try all those failed businesses of yours." The air in the room froze. Lucas' face turned red, and my mom immediately jumped in to defend him. "Adam, that's not fair. Your brother has had a hard time finding his path, and yet you've always been there to bail him out." My voice trembled with anger. "You've got to be kidding me. This is how you see it." The argument escalated quickly. My dad slammed his fork down, and Lucas stormed out of the room. Ava and I left not long after, but the damage was done. The next day, Mom called me. Her tone was cold. She didn't ask how I was doing or try to smooth things over. Instead, she said, "Adam, you need to apologize to Lucas. What you said was hurtful." I couldn't believe it. "What about what he said?" "Lucas was joking," she replied sharply. "You know how he is? He jokes to lighten the mood." I couldn't hold back anymore. "Mom, he wasn't joking. He's been taking shots at me for years, and you've been letting him. Why do you always take a side?" There was silence on the other end of the line before she sighed. "Adam, you've always been independent. You don't need us the way Lucas does." That stung. I knew my parents had always been more focused on Lucas, but to hear her say it out loud like that felt like confirmation of everything I'd ever feared. Ava tried to help me process it, but she had her own bombshell to drop. She'd overheard my parents talking after the dinner, and what she told me left me stunned. "They think you're arrogant," she said softly. "They think Lucas has more heart than you." Those words stuck with me. Arrogant. Heartless. I'd spent my entire life trying to prove myself, trying to show them I was worth their love and attention. And this is how they saw me? I couldn't let it go. A week later, I invited everyone over to my house to clear the air. When they arrived, the tension was palpable. I sat them down and laid everything out. I told them how I felt, dismissed, overlooked, and undervalued. Lucas sat there, looking uncomfortable, but my parents just stared at me. Their expressions were unreadable. When I finished, my dad spoke first. "Adam, we've always loved you. But you've got to understand, Lucas needs more support than you do. You've always been strong. You don't need us the same way." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "So, because I don't need you, I don't deserve you?" "Don't twist our words," Mom snapped. "We're just saying Lucas has had a harder time in life." Ava, bless her, stepped in. "With all due respect, I think you're missing the point. Adam isn't asking for financial support. He's asking for acknowledgement. He's asking for you to see him." My parents didn't respond. Lucas finally spoke up. "Look, Adam, I didn't mean to upset you at dinner. I was just joking." "You weren't joking, Lucas," I said, my voice tight. "You've been making digs at me for years, and everyone lets you get away with it." The conversation didn't go anywhere. My parents were stuck in their belief that Lucas needed them more, and Lucas didn't seem to think he'd done anything wrong. As they left, my mom hugged me and said, "We'll talk soon." But I knew we wouldn't. Now, I'm left trying to figure out my next steps. Do I keep fighting for a place in a family that doesn't seem to value me? Or do I let go and focus on the life Ava and I are building together? I don't know what the right answer is, but I do know one thing. I'm done being invisible. It feels like my life is unraveling faster than I can figure out what's going on. After the fallout with my family, I threw myself into work, hoping at least one part of my life would remain stable. I've worked for years to build my reputation as a reliable, capable professional in finance. But recently, strange and unexplainable things have been happening at my job, and I can't shake the feeling that something or someone is behind it. It started small. I noticed that a few emails I was sure I'd sent weren't showing up in my sent folder. At first, I thought maybe I'd forgotten to hit send. I even joked with my colleague Jordan about it during a lunch break. Jordan is the guy everyone in the office turns to for IT questions, and he's usually a step ahead when it comes to troubleshooting. Maybe you're just overworked, he said, half laughing. I can run a check on your system if you're really worried. I brushed it off. It's probably nothing, just me being scatterbrained. But it didn't stop there. A week later, I had a major meeting with a client, and when I opened my files to present the data, key parts were missing. The client was visibly unimpressed, and I left the room feeling like a complete idiot. That night, I stayed late, going through my notes and files to figure out what went wrong. I was sure I had saved everything correctly. The next morning, Jordan stopped by my desk. Hey, Adam. I was reviewing some flagged activities on our server last night. Your account had some strange access times, like 3 a.m. strange. Did you log in from home? I hadn't. In fact, I'd gone straight to bed after leaving the office. Can you figure out what's going on? I asked. Jordan nodded. I'll dig deeper, but it might take a day or two. Just be careful, okay? A few days later, things escalated. I was up for a promotion, a huge one. The role came with a $200,000 salary and significant responsibility. I've been working toward this for years, putting in long hours and taking on extra projects. My manager, Danielle, had even hinted that the role was practically mine. But the day before the decision was supposed to be announced, Danielle called me in her office. Adam, we need to talk, she said, her face serious. There's been a concern raised about your conduct. My stomach dropped. What kind of concern? She hesitated. Someone claimed you've been spreading confidential information about our clients. We've had reports of leaks and some of the data points back to your account. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Danielle, that's not true. I'd never. I want to believe you, Adam, she said, cutting me off. But until we can sort this out, the promotion is off the table. I left her office in a daze. How could this be happening? That night, Ava found me sitting on the couch, staring at my laptop. She sat beside me, resting her hand on my shoulder. You've been quiet since you got home. What's wrong? She asked. I told her everything. She listened carefully, her face a mix of concern and confusion. Do you think someone's doing this on purpose? She asked. I don't know, I admitted, but it feels like I'm being set up. The next morning, things got even stranger. Lucas called me. I hadn't spoken to him since the family meeting, so I was surprised to see his name pop up on my phone. Hey, Adam, he said, his tone overly casual. I heard about your promotion. Tough break. I froze. How do you know about that? Mom mentioned it, he said quickly. She said you were in line for something big at work. There was something off about the way he said it. The details he knew didn't seem like something Mom would have casually mentioned. Lucas, is there something you're not telling me? I asked. Relax, he said with a laugh. You're always so paranoid. Just thought I'd check in. He hung up before I could press him further. Jordan came by my desk later that day with a grim look on his face. Adam, we need to talk, he said, leading me to one of the small conference rooms and shutting the door. I found something. He lowered his voice. Someone's been using your account to access files remotely. The IP address doesn't match your home or office. Can you track it? I asked. I'm working on it, he said, but it's going to take time. In the meantime, I'd suggest changing all your passwords and keeping an eye on your activity. I felt a wave of relief knowing I wasn't imagining things, but the bigger question remained. Who was doing this? A week later, I got my answer, and it was worse than I could have imagined. Jordan managed to trace the IP address to a location downtown, a shared workspace known for its flexible rental terms. He dug a little deeper and found that one of the accounts associated with the space was under the name L. Adams. Lucas. My head spun as I tried to piece it together. Lucas had no reason to be anywhere near my work. He didn't even understand what I did for a living. But somehow, he was accessing my files, sabotaging my work, and ruining my chances at the promotion I'd worked so hard for. That night, I confronted Ava with what I'd learned. I think Lucas is behind this, I said, my voice shaking with anger. She looked shocked. But why? What could he possibly gain from this? I don't know, I admitted, but I'm going to find out. I decided to confront Lucas directly. I showed up at his apartment unannounced, my heart pounding in my chest. He opened the door, looking surprised to see me. Adam, what are you doing here? He asked. I pushed past him into the living room. Cut the crap, Lucas. I know what you've been doing. His face shifted, a mix of guilt and defiance. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I snapped. I know you've been accessing my work files. I know you've been spreading rumors about me. Why are you doing this? For a moment, he looked like he was going to deny it again, but then his shoulders slumped. You've always had everything, Adam, he said bitterly. The career, the recognition, the life I wanted. I just wanted to level the playing field. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You sabotaged me because you were jealous? I didn't think it would go this far, he said quietly. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. But more than anything, I felt a deep sadness. This was my brother, the person who was supposed to have my back. I wish I could say things had settled down after finding out Lucas was behind the sabotage at work, but they only got worse. If I thought my family couldn't disappoint me anymore, I was wrong. What I uncovered next made me question everything: my career, my family, and even my own judgment. It all started when I noticed a folder tucked away in a cabinet at my parents' house during a visit. Ava and I had reluctantly agreed to go over for dinner, hoping to keep some semblance of peace, but I wasn't feeling particularly friendly. While Ava chatted with my mom in the kitchen, I wandered into Dad's study. It was a place he'd always kept locked when we were kids, but now it was left open, cluttered with papers and an outdated computer. I wasn't snooping, at least not intentionally, but a folder sitting on the edge of the desk caught my eye. It was labeled with Lucas's name, and curiosity got the better of me. I opened it, expecting to see something mundane, maybe old school records or medical bills.